I'm going to try and repair this AC plug pack. This is an old one, I've had this thing for a long time. A Dick Smith brand, but it could be any brand. This is just the local electronic store that's here at the time, who are now long gone actually. So this is a 12 volt AC 500 mA plug pack. So output's 12 volt AC. I've just pulled it apart. I'm going to show you what I'm actually looking at. So to put it apart, because this is actually welded shut, what you do is you get some kind of impact device and you just basically go around the weld and you sit on a desk like that and just keep tapping it. Go right round, round and round and round, and eventually it will start to crank the weld and you can just pull the top cover off, which is what I've done. In these things, it is just a transformer, there's nothing else in it. Just a transformer. So we lifted this out. What I've also done is I've measured the primary and secondary windings, because it is just a transformer and there's no output when it's plugged in. So I've got my multimeter over here. I shall show you this. Get ohms. Got a secondary side here which is sticking up. Yeah, getting 1.5 ohms or so on the secondary. Primary side is struck these pins here, and there is nothing there. Primary is open circuit. So I thought, right, okay, blown primary. That's a shame. But sometimes transformers will have built-in protection, and that's the case here. So I looked at really closely at the windings. I sort of had a bit of a feel. It's like, oh, there's a bump there. That's where the connections are. And I felt around here. It's like, oh, there's a bump on this side. And it actually had a plastic shielding around here, which I've peeled off. But there was a bump there, and I peeled off the tape that's over here. And inside there is this thing. What is that, you may say? Well, that I believe is a thermal fuse. I bet you that thermal fuse is open. Let's find out. So I've got the meter in continuity mode. So if it works, it'll beep. Let's have a look. Sort of moving around, scratching around a little bit. Yep, that fuse is open circuit. That's what's wrong, thermal fuse. Now, there's also a bump on this side. I think there's also a thermal fuse on this side of the wiring as well. So it's actually split quite nicely. You've got the primary one side, secondary this side. So it's quite nicely designed one. It's actually got good oscillation. So this exposes slightly more. And there's a lead there and a lead there, both going to the original windings. So unfortunately that was disappearing down inside there, so I have to cut this off right there. So we've got two things here. We could either remove the protection altogether, which is a little bit dodgy, or we can replace the thermal fuse with another one. We should really replace it. So the only thermal fuses I've got are quite large and like 10 amp rated. I'm not really liking the ones I've got. So what I'm going to do instead is use a standard fuse. But these are really small values, like 500 milliamp fuses, and these have got wire leads on them, because there was no primary side fusing apart from that thermal fuse that was in there. So if I put in a standard fuse in this position instead, if it does get hot, it should still melt and blow. And 500 milliamps should be fine anyway, I think. I mean, I would like smaller, but that's the smallest fuse I've got. And that's what I've got, which is suitable, kind of. It's not ideal, but it's still better than nothing. Right, let's solder this up. So we'll get some fresh solder on here. I'll try and get so you can see what I'm doing. This on this side as well. Big blob. So I'm actually tempted to put some sleeving over this as well, because it's going to be rubbing basically on the coils, so I think I do need to put some sleeving on it. So let's do that. So let's get some solder on this. I'm just going to solder this onto the winding first, and then I shall figure out the sleeving part. I've got some sleeving cut off here, ready to go. Actually, let's do this. Seems okay. Slide the sleeving on. It's a bit long, but we'll see. Just want to see how far down there I can get it. I'm going to run this up onto here like that. Right. Twist it around there. We'll solder that on there. Do that. Get the tape out of the way, be nice. Solder this on here. Don't need that much on there, cut that right off. Okay, not ideal, but that should work. I will do something with this end. I'll obviously put some kind of tape or something around that as well to protect it, but right now let's hold this down like this. Put it above that tape there, so that's covered. So let's check the primary, see if it's conducting now. Oh, slipped off. 360 ohms or so there. Yep. About 360 ohms or so, depending on what I'm probing. So I put some liquid electrical tape over that bare end that was there, and obviously I folded it down so it wasn't protruding. And then I've wrapped a few layers of electrical tape around the outside as well, so it's covered from the outside too. So this can then go back into here, like that. And this will go over there, so let's tuck that in there. Just like that. So I'm going to glue this together again, once I'm sure this is working okay. So what I'm going to do first is plug it in, see if it actually works. So I've got my power supply hooked up over to my hopping meter over here, which you can just see in the corner. I've got the focusing set on this so you can see this better. This will show the voltage on the output, which is hooked up to these probes here. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. And let's turn it on, see what happens. 30 volts coming out. 1.6 watts going into the primary side. So that's okay, it's like 30 milliamps or so going to the primary. And obviously that's with no loading. So that's just purely what it takes to get the magnetics working inside the transformer. It's working though, so excellent. Obviously if you're going to do this kind of thing yourself, you make sure that you don't have anything exposed where you may accidentally zap yourself or somebody else. You have to be really careful with these things, you know, main stuff, you have to be super careful. You have to really know what you're doing. Like that right now is a bit dodgy because it's not actually sealed up yet. But I know that, I'm not going to be touching it. Now I need to seal this back up, I'll glue that back together. And it should be good. So make sure you click like and subscribe if you like this video. And I'll catch you next one. Bye.